All right, let's talk about habits. Today, we're diving deep into the science of why we do what we do. We're going to combine the incredible work of Charles Duhigg and James Clear to build a really powerful, but simple, framework you can use to change pretty much any routine for good. Let's get right into it.
You know that feeling, right? You decide, okay, this is it. I'm going to eat healthier, or exercise more, or finally stop procrastinating. You're all fired up, you have all this motivation, and then a few days later, you're right back where you started. It feels like this constant, frustrating losing battle.
We often think that willpower is the answer, that we just need to be tougher. But the research shows willpower is a finite resource. It's more like a muscle that just gets exhausted. In one famous study, they had people resist eating these fresh-baked cookies. Well, those folks gave up on a difficult puzzle 60% faster than the people who didn't have to resist. Their willpower was just completely drained.
And here's why that is so important. A study from Duke University found that up to 40%, that's almost half, of our daily actions aren't actually conscious decisions. They're just habits running on complete autopilot. So think about that. You can't use your limited little battery of willpower to fight nearly half of your day. You need a much better strategy. So what is that better strategy? Well, it starts with understanding the engine that's driving all these automatic behaviors. There's this simple kind of hidden pattern at the core of every single habit you have. And this pattern is called the habit loop. It's basically your brain's shortcut system. It's a way to save effort by turning a whole sequence of actions into an automatic routine. It's actually a super efficient system, and once you understand how it works, well, that's when you can start to have some power over it. Okay, so the loop has three parts, super simple. First, there's the cue. That's the trigger, the thing that tells your brain, hey, let's go into automatic mode now. Next up is the routine, which is the behavior itself, whether it's physical, mental, or emotional. And finally, you've got the reward. That's the payoff that helps your brain decide if this whole loop is worth remembering for the future. So let's put it together. A cue triggers a routine to get a reward. Let's think about your morning coffee. The cue might just be waking up. The routine is, stumbling to the kitchen, brewing the coffee, drinking it. And the reward? That beautiful jolt of energy and focus. Cue, routine, reward. It's running all the time, completely under the radar. But what's the secret sauce here? What's the fuel that makes this loop spin on its own? It's craving. Just like Duhigg says, your brain starts to anticipate the reward. It's not just that you get the caffeine. It's that you start to crave it the second you wake up. That craving is what powers the whole loop and just locks the habit in place. Okay, so if we're gonna change a habit, we can't just ignore this loop. We have to be like mechanics. We have to deconstruct it and then rebuild it. And luckily, Charles Duhigg gives us this really clear 4-step framework for doing exactly that. First, you just identify the routine. That's the obvious part, the behavior you want to change, like grabbing that cookie every afternoon. Then you play detective and experiment with different rewards to figure out what craving you're really trying to satisfy. Next, you isolate the cue, you hunt down the trigger, and finally, you create a solid plan to put it all into action. Now, this step of isolating the cue is absolutely crucial, and it's easier than it sounds. Whenever that urge to do the habit strikes, just quickly write down the answers to these 5 questions. Turns out, almost every single habit cue falls into one of these categories. For Duhigg, this was his aha moment. He realized his cookie habit wasn't triggered by hunger at all. It was just the time of day, around 3:30 p.m. And that discovery leads us to what is basically the golden rule of changing habits. You don't eliminate a bad habit, you replace it. Once you know the cue and you know what reward you're really after, you can design a new routine that delivers that same payoff. Duhigg realized he was craving social interaction, not the cookie. So his new plan? 3:30 p.m. hits, same cue, but instead of going to the cafeteria, he gets up and chats with a colleague for 10 minutes. Same cue, same reward, just a much better routine. So re-engineering the loop. That's the mechanics of habit change. That's the how. But honestly, it's only half the battle. To make change really stick, for good, we need to shift our focus from what we do to who we are. And this is where the work of James Clear is just so brilliant.
So most of us, we set outcome-based goals. We focus on the result, right? I want to lose 20 pounds. But a much more powerful approach is to build identity-based goals. Here, the focus isn't on the outcome. It's on becoming the type of person who could achieve that outcome. The goal isn't just to hit a number on the scale. The goal is to be an active person. See the difference?
This is the real key. Your current habits, they're just a reflection of your current identity. They're the things you do because on some level, you believe you are that kind of person. So if you want true, lasting change, it has to start with a shift in what you believe about yourself.
And the process for this is actually really simple. First, you just decide not what you want to achieve, but who do you wish to become. And second, you start proving that new identity to yourself, not with some huge, heroic effort, but with small, undeniable actions, small wins.
This brings us to this idea of small wins, and it is so incredibly powerful. And we're not talking about massive efforts here. We are talking about actions that are so small, so tiny, that they're almost impossible not to do.
And there is a real biological reason this works so well. Every single time you complete one of these tiny actions, your brain gets a little hit of dopamine. It's that feel-good chemical that says, hey, that felt good, let's do it again. It literally builds a positive feedback loop that generates its own momentum and motivation.
Now, this is my favorite way to think about this whole thing. Every time you do one of these small actions, you are casting a vote for the type of person you want to become. One push-up is a vote for I am a person who exercises. Writing just one sentence is a vote for I am a writer. The goal isn't to be perfect overnight. It's just to let the votes for your new identity start to add up. And these wins can be almost ridiculously small. I mean, don't commit to running a marathon. Just commit to putting on your running shoes. Don't commit to writing a novel. Just commit to writing one single paragraph. These things aren't the final goal, of course. They are the starting line for proving your new identity to yourself.
So now we have these two incredibly powerful concepts, right? We've got Duhigg's mechanical habit loop, and we have Clear's psychological identity-based habits. The real magic happens when we combine them, when we put them together into one unified strategy. So here's the ultimate takeaway. You use Duhigg's framework to diagnose the cue, the routine, and the reward for any habit. Then you design a new, better routine. But you don't stop there. You anchor that new routine to your desired identity. So every time you perform it, you're not just doing an action. You are actively casting a vote for the person you want to be. And that is what makes the change stick for good.
And that really brings us to the final question. Don't think about tomorrow or next week. Let's think about right now. What is one tiny, almost effortless action you can take in the next 5 minutes to cast just a single vote for the person you ultimately want to become?